Dr. He-Jin Kim stared at her computer screen, her eyes growing wider with each passing second. The data from the James Webb Space Telescope wasn't making sense, but that was exactly why it was so exciting. She had checked the numbers 3 times already. Something was different about this deep space observation. The office around her was quiet. Most of her colleagues at the Space Telescope Science Institute had gone home hours ago. The only sounds were the soft hum of computers and the tapping of her fingers on the keyboard. A half-empty cup of cold coffee sat forgotten beside her desk. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself, pulling up another set of images. The telescope had been observing a distant star system when it picked up an unusual pattern of infrared signals. These weren't random. They had a structure that reminded her of digital communication signals. He-Jin reached for her phone and quickly dialed a familiar number. After 3 rings, a tired voice answered. "Do you know what time it is?" Dr. Ta-Won Park asked, trying to hide a yawn. "Ta-Won, I need you to come to the lab right now," He-Jin said, her voice steady despite her excitement. "I found something in the Webb data that you need to see." "Can't it wait until morning?" "No," she said firmly. "This is different. I think we might have found something artificial." There was a long pause on the other end. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Ta-Won finally said. While waiting for her colleague, He-Jin printed out the data charts and spread them across her desk. The pattern was clear now. Among the usual infrared signatures of distant stars and galaxies, there was something else, a repeating sequence of signals that couldn't be natural. Ta-Won arrived wearing a wrinkled shirt and carrying his laptop bag. His gray hair was messy, but his eyes were alert. He-Jin quickly showed him the data. "Look at this pattern," she said, pointing to a series of peaks and valleys in the signal. "It repeats every 127 seconds exactly. Nature doesn't work like that." Ta-Won sat down and started examining the data. He had been studying space telescope data for 20 years, but He-Jin could see the surprise on his face as he looked through the charts. "When did the telescope first pick this up?" he asked, reaching for He-Jin's coffee before realizing it was cold. 3 days ago. I've been checking it against other observations to make sure it wasn't an equipment error." She pulled up more images on her screen. "The signal is coming from a star system about 40 light-years away. It's one we've looked at before, but we never saw anything unusual until now." Ta-Won frowned. "Why didn't we see it before?" "I think it's because we upgraded the quantum sensors last month," He-Jin explained. "The new settings let us detect much fainter signals. Whatever this is, it's been hiding just below our detection threshold." They spent the next 2 hours analyzing the data. As the sun began to rise outside their window, both scientists came to the same conclusion. They were looking at something that couldn't be explained by natural phenomena. "We need to tell the director," Ta-Won said, rubbing his tired eyes. "But we should be careful about how we present this. If we're right about what this might be." He-Jin nodded, understanding what he meant. If they were really seeing artificial signals from another civilization, it would change everything. But they had to be absolutely sure before making such a claim. "Let's run one more series of tests," she suggested. "We'll use different wavelengths this time. If the pattern shows up again, then we'll know it's real," Ta-Won finished. As they set up the new observations, He-Jin felt a mix of excitement and fear. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in space, might have just spotted something that would change the course of human history, and she was one of the first people to know about it. The next set of tests would take several hours to complete. As they waited, He-Jin couldn't help but wonder, if someone out there was sending these signals, were they waiting for humanity to notice them? And more importantly, what would happen now that we had? 3 days after their initial discovery, He-Jin and Ta-Won sat in a conference room with Jae-ho Lee, one of the world's leading experts in quantum communications. The young specialist adjusted his glasses as he studied the data spread across the table. "You were right to call me," Jae-ho said, looking up from the papers. These signals show quantum entanglement patterns. Someone or something is using quantum technology to communicate. He-Jin felt her heart beat faster. They had run every possible test over the past few days, and each one had confirmed their findings. The signals were real. "Can you explain what you mean about quantum entanglement?" Ta-Won asked, leaning forward in his chair. "We need to be absolutely certain before we take this to the director." Jai-Ho pulled out a marker and walked to the whiteboard. "Normal radio signals get weaker over distance," he explained, drawing simple diagrams. "But quantum entangled particles stay connected no matter how far apart they are. It's like they're sharing information instantly across space." "And you're saying that's what we're seeing?" He-Jin asked. "Yes. Look at this pattern here." Jai-Ho pointed to a particular section of data. "It's too perfect to be natural. Someone built a quantum communication network, and our telescope accidentally picked it up." The room fell silent as they considered the implications. Humanity had only recently begun experimenting with quantum communication. The idea that another civilization had mastered it was both thrilling and frightening. "We should keep this quiet for now," Ta-Won suggested. "If word gets out before we're ready." A knock on the door interrupted him. Dr. Young-Mi Kang, the Institute's director, stepped into the room. Her face was serious. "I've been hearing rumors about an unusual discovery," she said, closing the door behind her. "I think it's time you told me what's going on." He-Jin looked at her colleagues, then nodded. They spent the next hour showing Dr. Kang everything they had found. The director listened carefully, asking sharp questions about their methods and conclusions. "Have you considered that this might be a signal from Earth?" she asked, "perhaps reflecting off something in space." "We checked that," Jai-Ho explained. "The quantum signature is completely different from any human technology. Plus, the signal is definitely coming from that star system." Dr. Kang walked to the window, looking out at the campus below. Students and researchers went about their daily routines, unaware that their understanding of humanity's place in the universe might be about to change forever. "We need to verify this one more time," she finally said. "Dr. Lee, I want you to work with the quantum research team at the National Laboratory. Dr. Kim, Dr. Park, prepare the telescope for another set of observations. We'll focus all our resources on that star system." As they left the conference room, He-Jin noticed her hands were shaking slightly. The weight of their discovery was starting to sink in. Humanity had always wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now they might have proof that we weren't. That evening, as the team prepared for their new observations, an alert came from the telescope's control system. The quantum signals had changed. They were getting stronger, and their pattern was different. "It's like they know we're watching now," Jai-Ho said, staring at the new data. "Like they're trying to get our attention." He-Jin remembered something she had read about the Fermi paradox, the question of why humanity had never found signs of alien life despite the vast number of stars and planets. Perhaps the answer was simple: we had been looking for the wrong kind of signals. As the James Webb Space Telescope continued its observation of the distant star system, none of them realized that they were about to uncover something far more important than proof of alien life. They were about to discover humanity's role in a vast network of civilizations, hidden in the quantum realm of space itself. The news spread faster than anyone expected. Despite their best efforts to keep the discovery secret, someone had leaked information to the press. Now, He-Jin found herself sitting in a secure meeting room at Space Force headquarters, facing Colonel Sang-Min Choi. "Dr. Kim, we need to establish proper protocols immediately," the colonel said, his voice firm but not unkind. He was younger than He-Jin had expected for someone in his position, perhaps in his early 40s. "The president wants to know our options for first contact." He-Jin glanced at Ta-Won, who sat beside her. They had worked together for years, but neither of them had prepared for this situation. "The signals are getting stronger," He-Jin explained, opening her laptop to show the latest data. "We think they're adjusting their transmission to make it easier for us to detect them." Colonel Choi leaned forward, studying the graphs on the screen. Are they trying to communicate directly with us? We believe so, Ta-1 answered. Dr. Lee, our quantum specialist, has identified patterns that look like a mathematical sequence. It's as if they're teaching us their language. The colonel stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the busy military base below. We need to be careful about how we respond. The whole world is watching now. A young lieutenant entered the room with a tablet. Sir, we're getting reports of unusual quantum readings from research facilities around the world. China, Russia, and the European Union are all detecting similar signals. This was new information to He-Jin. They're broadcasting to everyone, she realized. Not just to us. Or they're watching how we share information with each other, Ta-1 suggested, testing our ability to cooperate. Colonel Choi returned to his seat. Dr. Kim, I want you to work with our communications team. If these beings are trying to talk to us, we need to be ready to answer. Before He-Jin could respond, her phone buzzed with a message from Jae-ho. The text was brief but urgent. The signals are changing again. Come to the lab now. At the quantum research facility, Jae-ho had covered an entire wall with printouts of signal patterns. Look at this, he said, pointing to the most recent data. They're not just sending mathematical sequences anymore. These patterns match our own quantum experiments. What do you mean? Colonel Choi asked, having followed them to the lab. Every time we run a quantum communication test, they send back a similar signal, Jae-ho explained. It's like they're saying, we see what you're doing, and we can do it too. He-Jin felt a chill run down her spine. How long have they been watching us? That's not the important question, Ta-1 said quietly. The real question is, why are they choosing to make contact now? Colonel Choi's phone rang, interrupting the discussion. His face grew serious as he listened to the caller. I understand, he said finally. We'll be ready. He turned to the scientists. The president is calling an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Dr. Kim, you and your team will need to present your findings. The world's leaders want to know exactly what we're dealing with. As they prepared to leave for New York, He-Jin looked at the wall of signal patterns one last time. Somewhere out there, an advanced civilization was reaching out to humanity. They had been watching, waiting for humans to develop the right technology to detect them. Now that we had, everything was about to change. What she didn't know yet was that their first contact protocol would soon become crucial for humanity's survival. The aliens weren't just reaching out to say hello. They had a warning to deliver. The United Nations building buzzed with activity. He-Jin sat in a temporary office they had given her team, surrounded by computers and monitoring equipment. They had been working for 3 days straight, trying to decode the increasingly complex signals from space. I think I found something, said Dr. Sun Hyun, the cryptographer who had joined their team. She had spent 20 years breaking complex codes, but this was different from anything she had seen before. The aliens aren't just sending us signals. They're using our own telescope to communicate. He-Jin moved to look at Sun He's screen. What do you mean? The quantum patterns match the telescope's observation schedule, Sun Hai explained, pointing to her analysis. Every time we look at a different part of space, they adjust their signal. They're using the Webb telescope like a quantum receiver. Ta-1, who had been dozing in a chair, sat up straight. Are you saying they modified our telescope? No, Jae-ho interrupted, his eyes wide with understanding. They didn't need to modify it. They're using its natural quantum properties. The telescope was already perfect for quantum communication. We just didn't know it. Colonel Choi entered the room with 2 cups of coffee. He had stayed with the science team, acting as their link to military command. Have you made progress with the actual message? Sun He nodded, pulling up another screen of data. The patterns are forming into something we can understand. It's like they're teaching us their language one step at a time. First mathematics, then basic concepts, and now. She typed a series of commands, and new images appeared on the main screen. They showed simple diagrams, stars, planets, and what looked like paths connecting them. "It's a map," He-Jin said softly. "They're showing us where they are." "Not just that, Sun," he corrected. "They're showing us how they've been watching us. See these connections? They're quantum communication channels. They built a network across space itself." "But why show us now?" Colonel Choi asked. "Why not wait until we develop this technology ourselves?" Before anyone could answer, all their screens flickered. The quantum signals from space suddenly became much stronger. New patterns flooded their computers, but these were different from the earlier ones. "This is it," Sunhai said, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "They're sending the main message now. The rest was just teaching us how to read it." They watched as Sunhai's translation program processed the new data. Slowly, English words began appearing on the screen. "Your TLAs go PECEs US. We HAVBE in waiting. There is danger. Others watch too. Not ALREFR delay. We must prepare you." The room fell silent. He-Jin felt her heart pounding. After all their work, after all their excitement about first contact, they were receiving a warning. "There's more," Sunhai said, as new words appeared. "They're saying they've been secretly upgrading the Webb telescope's quantum sensors, helping us see what we need to see. Can we trust them?" Colonel Choi asked, already reaching for his phone to alert his superiors. "I don't think we have a choice," Taiwan said. "Whatever danger they're warning us about, they've been preparing us for it. The Webb telescope isn't just observing space anymore. It's our first line of defense." He-Jin looked out the window at the New York skyline, thinking about how quickly everything had changed. In just a few days, they had gone from discovering alien signals to learning that humanity was about to face an unknown threat. And their only allies were beings they had never seen, reaching out through the quantum depths of space. The James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's eye on the universe, had become much more than a scientific instrument. It was now a bridge between civilizations, and perhaps humanity's best hope for survival. The full message from space arrived over 3 days. He-Jin and her team worked without rest to decode it, while military leaders from around the world waited anxiously for updates. The story it told was both fascinating and terrifying. Dr. Sun Hyun's translation program worked perfectly now. She sat at her computer, reading the alien message aloud to the gathered group. "They call themselves the Watchers," she explained, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "They have been studying developing civilizations for thousands of years. Earth caught their attention when we launched the Webb telescope." "Why the Webb specifically?" Colonel Choi asked. He had dark circles under his eyes from the long hours, but he remained focused. "Because it shows we understand quantum mechanics," Jaiho answered, pointing to the technical data on his screen. "The telescope's mirrors and instruments are sensitive enough to detect quantum effects. That's what they were waiting for." He-Jin opened a new file on the main screen, showing the next part of the message. "But we're not the only ones watching space," she said. "The Watchers warn us about another species, one that destroys civilizations like ours." The room grew very quiet. Todd, who had been taking notes, looked up with concern. "What do you mean, civilizations like ours?" Sunhai scrolled through more of the translation. "According to the message, there's a hostile species that targets civilizations when they reach our level of technology, specifically when they develop quantum observation capabilities." "But why?" Colonel Choi asked. "Because that's when civilizations can detect the quantum communication network," Jaiho explained. "It's like finding a hidden road map of the galaxy. The hostile species doesn't want others to join this network." He-Jin pointed to another part of the message. "The Watchers have been helping us in secret. They've been using quantum mechanics to enhance the Webb telescope's capabilities, making it more sensitive, more powerful. Without asking our permission." Colonel Choi frowned. "They had to be careful," Sunhai read from the translation. "If they contacted us too early, it would have drawn attention. They needed us to develop the technology ourselves, but they could help us along. Taiwan stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the New York streets were full of people going about their normal lives, unaware of the danger approaching Earth. "How long do we have?" he asked. He-Jin checked the latest data from the telescope. The watchers say the hostile species usually attacks within 1 Earth year of detecting quantum observation capability. "And when did we achieve that capability?" Colonel Choi asked, already knowing the answer. 8 months ago, Jai-ho said quietly. "When we last upgraded the Webb telescope's sensors." Colonel Choi immediately pulled out his phone and stepped out of the room to make calls. The scientists looked at each other, understanding the gravity of their situation. "The watchers aren't just warning us," He-Jin said, reading the final part of the message. "They want to help us prepare. They say the Webb telescope can be modified to create some kind of quantum defense system. Can we trust them?" Taiwan asked. "They've been helping us all along," Sun Hai pointed out. "The Webb telescope's incredible discoveries over the past year. They were guiding us, showing us what we needed to see." He-Jin looked at the telescope's live feed on her screen. Somewhere out there, 2 alien species were watching Earth. One waiting to help, the other waiting to attack. And humanity's most advanced space telescope had become the key to our survival. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Military bases around the world went on high alert, while the scientific team worked to understand the watchers' instructions for modifying the Webb telescope. Colonel Choi coordinated operations from a new command center beneath the Space Telescope Science Institute. Large screens covered the walls, showing military movements and space observations from around the globe. "The Chinese and European space agencies have agreed to help," he informed He-Jin one morning. "They're redirecting their quantum research teams to support our efforts." He-Jin nodded, studying the technical diagrams on her tablet. The watchers had sent detailed instructions for creating what they called a quantum shield. The science behind it was complex, but the basic idea was simple. Use the Webb telescope's enhanced sensors to create a protective field around Earth. "The modifications are possible," Jai-ho reported, looking up from his calculations. "But we need more precision than humans have ever achieved before. One small error could disable the entire telescope." Taiwan, who had been coordinating with engineering teams worldwide, brought up a new set of diagrams on the main screen. "The watchers suggested using these materials," he explained. "Some of them we've never manufactured before." "Can we do it in time?" Colonel Choi asked. "We have to," He-Jin answered. "The hostile species could arrive any day now." Dr. Sun Hai-Yun entered the room with new translations. "The watchers sent more details about the enemy," she announced. "They call themselves the Silencers. They believe that quantum communication between civilizations is dangerous. They think it will attract something worse from deep space." "Are they right?" Colonel Choi asked. "The watchers say no," Sun He replied. "They've been using the quantum network for thousands of years. The Silencers are acting on fear, not facts." The team worked day and night. Engineers from every major space agency collaborated to create the new materials. Scientists tested and refined the quantum modifications. Military forces prepared for every possible scenario. One evening, as He-Jin reviewed the latest test results, she noticed something interesting in the Webb telescope's data. "The quantum signals are getting stronger," she called out. "The watchers are increasing power to their network." Jai-ho rushed to check the readings. "They're right. It's like they're reinforcing the quantum connections around Earth. They're trying to protect us." Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as Colonel Choi rushed into the room. "We're detecting unusual energy signatures at the edge of the solar system," he announced. "Multiple objects moving at high speed." "The Silencers?" Taiwan asked, his face pale. "Most likely," the colonel replied. "All space agencies confirm the same readings. They'll reach Earth's orbit in less than 72 hours. He-Jin looked at her team. They had known this moment would come, But not so soon. The Webb telescope's modifications were only partly complete. The quantum shield was untested. "We need more time," Jiho said, voicing what everyone was thinking. "We don't have it," Colonel Choi responded. "We'll have to use what we have ready." Dr. Kim, Dr. Park, prepare the telescope for defensive operations. The rest of you, finish what you can. Humanity's first interstellar battle is about to begin. Hajin turned back to her work, knowing that Earth's survival might depend on how well they had understood the Watcher's instructions. The James Webb Space Telescope, designed to uncover the secrets of the universe, would now be used to defend humanity's place in it. The silencers arrived earlier than expected. Hajin was reviewing the final modifications to the Webb telescope when the alerts began. Across every monitoring station on Earth, sensors detected multiple objects entering the solar system at incredible speeds. "They're here," Colonel Choi announced, his voice steady despite the tension. "All stations, prepare for defensive operations." In the command center, screens showed the approaching vessels. They were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Dark shapes that seemed to bend the light around them. The silencer's ships moved with impossible precision, spreading out to surround Earth. "The quantum shield isn't ready," Jiho reported, his fingers moving rapidly across his keyboard. "We need at least another hour to complete the modifications." "We don't have an hour," Taiwan said, pointing to the main display. The enemy ships had already passed Mars' orbit and were accelerating. Hajin made a quick decision. "We'll have to activate it now," she said. "The Watcher's basic modifications are in place. It might be enough." Colonel Choi nodded. "Do it. All defense forces are standing by." Sunhei's computer suddenly lit up with new signals. "The Watchers are sending a message," she announced. "They say their network will support our shield. They're diverting power to help us." Hajin and Jiho worked quickly, entering the final commands to activate the Webb telescope's quantum defense systems. The telescope, positioned 1,000,000 miles from Earth, began to pulse with invisible quantum energy. "Shield activation in 10 seconds, Hajin announced. The room fell silent as everyone watched the countdown. The moment the shield activated, the entire command center hummed with energy. On the monitors, they could see a faint shimmer surrounding Earth as quantum particles linked together, creating a protective barrier. "The silencers are launching their first attack," Colonel Choi reported. Strange beams of energy shot from the alien ships, aimed at major cities across Earth. Everyone held their breath, watching as the energy weapons struck the quantum shield. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, amazingly, the attacks dissipated harmlessly against the barrier. "It's working," Jiho exclaimed. "The quantum shield is absorbing their weapons." The silencers launched wave after wave of attacks, using different types of energy weapons. Each time, the shield held. The Webb telescope, enhanced by the Watcher's modifications and supported by their quantum network, was protecting humanity. "They're changing tactics," Taiwan warned. Several silencer ships were moving closer, attempting to find weak points in the shield. Hajin watched the telescope's readings carefully. "The quantum network is adapting," she observed. "The Watchers are helping us strengthen the shield wherever the silencers attack." The battle continued for hours. The silencers tried everything they could think of to break through the shield, but nothing worked. Earth's first line of defense, built from a space telescope designed only to observe the stars, proved unbreakable. Finally, after what seemed like endless attacks, the silencer ships began to pull back. Their defeat was visible on every screen in the command center. "They're retreating," Colonel Choi confirmed. "All stations report the enemy fleet is withdrawing from the solar system." The room erupted in cheers and sighs of relief. Hajin looked at her colleagues with tears in her eyes. They had done it. Humanity had survived its first interstellar battle. "New message from the Watchers," Sunhei announced, reading her screen. They say we've proven ourselves. We're ready to join their network officially now. The silencers won't bother us again." Hajin looked up at the main screen, where a small image showed the Webb telescope floating in space. What had started as a scientific instrument had become humanity's guardian, and now it would serve as their bridge to a larger community of civilizations. The universe, it seemed, was far more interesting than anyone had imagined. 3 months after the battle with the silencers, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The James Webb Space Telescope, now permanently modified with quantum technology, served as humanity's primary link to the galactic community. Hajin stood in the new Quantum Communication Center, watching as messages from different civilizations appeared on the main screen. The Watchers had introduced Earth to dozens of other species, each with their own unique history and technology. "The Australian Quantum Lab is ready," Jai-Ho reported, entering the room with a tablet. "That makes 15 Earth stations now connected to the network." Taiwan looked up from his workstation, where he was studying data from a civilization near the galactic core. "Remember when we thought finding one alien signal was exciting?" he said with a smile. "Now we can barely keep up with all the messages." Colonel Choi, now General Choi, entered the room with Dr. Sun Hai-Yun. They had been meeting with world leaders about Earth's new role in the galactic community. "The United Nations has approved the first joint scientific mission," the general announced. "We're going to attempt quantum space travel." Hajin turned away from the screens, surprised. "So soon? Are we ready for that?" Sun He nodded, pulling up new translations on her computer. "The Watchers think we are. They've sent detailed instructions for converting our quantum shield technology into a propulsion system. It's amazing how much they're willing to share with us now," Taiwan said. "Everything from medical technology to clean energy systems. We earned their trust," Jai-Ho pointed out. "When we fought off the silencers, we proved we could handle advanced technology responsibly." Hajin walked to the window, looking out at the newly built quantum research buildings that surrounded their facility. Scientists from every nation now worked together, sharing discoveries and preparing humanity for its new role among the stars. "The Webb telescope changed everything," she said quietly. "Not just because it helped us find alien life, but because it showed us what humanity can do when we work together." General Choi joined her at the window. "Speaking of the telescope, the upgrade team is ready. They want to start the quantum enhancement project tomorrow." This was the next big step. Using knowledge from their alien allies, they would transform the Webb telescope into something even more powerful, a device capable of observing quantum space itself. Dr. Kim, a young assistant, called from the communication station. "We're receiving a priority message from the Watchers." Everyone gathered around the main screen as the message appeared. Sun Hai read it aloud, her voice filled with excitement. "They're inviting us to send representatives to a gathering of civilizations," she translated. "A meeting of species that have recently joined the quantum network. We'll be able to share our experiences and learn from others who have gone through the same transition. And they want us to bring our research on quantum shielding," Jai-Ho added, reading further. "Apparently, our modifications to the Webb telescope created some innovations they hadn't seen before." Hajin felt a surge of pride. Humanity hadn't just survived first contact. They had already started contributing to the galactic community. The James Webb Space Telescope, originally built just to observe the cosmos, had opened a door to humanity's greatest adventure. "So," General Choi said, looking at his team, "who wants to be among the first humans to attend an interstellar conference?" As hands raised around the room, Hajin couldn't help but smile. The universe had turned out to be far more wonderful and welcoming than anyone had imagined. And this was just the beginning of humanity's journey among the stars.